The King's Avatar, Chapter 1506, The Possibility of Mistake. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1506, The Possibility of Mistake. Translator, Noam Yummy. Editor, Noam Yummy. The dusky forest brightened, illuminating a path from tyranny's formation. Zhangji Ali. Dazzling hundred blossoms style. Offense and defense together. By the time the viewers regained their composure, desert dust and dark thunder had vanished. Only their shadows could be seen flickering in the light. The two had charged forward alongside dazzling hundred blossoms' attacks. Tyranny's fans instantly became excited. Holy Trinity! The Tyranny fans cheered. Holy Trinity! Han Wenqing, Zhang Jiali, and Lin Qingyan. These three old generals of tyranny had been fighting each other all the way from Season 2 to Season 9. At the end of their careers, the three unexpectedly became teammates, gathering together under tyranny. They were even able to create their own unique offensive formation, which tyranny nicknamed the Holy Trinity. The name showed just how much synergy there was between them. The people who understood you the best were your own enemies. These words suited these three perfectly. From enemies to teammates, being able to create their own set of tactics so quickly was because of their many years of experience as opponents. At this moment, tyranny officially began their offensive. The Holy Trinity that had the tyranny fans go wild last season had reappeared. As for this season, because of their frequent rotations, the three old generals rarely appeared together on stage. The tyranny fans had been waiting to see this scene for too long. Their hopes had finally been realized. The Holy Trinity didn't seem to be out of practice at all. Just as the fans were getting excited, another shadow flickered into their view. -9 degrees, Qin Muyan. Tyranny's fifth player, the fifth player who was overshadowed by the gods around him, had intruded into this picturesque scene. He didn't match the pace of the other three. His pace seemed completely out of place in comparison. However, the true experts could immediately feel the improvement in Team Tyranny as a whole. The Holy Trinity, it still comprised of the same three players. However, there was now a new helper alongside them. Qin Muyan was outstanding at positioning. He kept weaving in and out between the Holy Trinity, his gaze and gun aimed at spots that could potentially mean trouble for the formation. It was just that no trouble had occurred yet, so -9 degrees looked somewhat comical, as if he were delusional. But this was Zhang Xinji's style. It was better to be safe than sorry. His every move blocked any potential areas that could disrupt their plans. Shortly afterwards, the Holy Trinity had reached their destination. Cannon fire could already be heard in the forest. Tyranny's guess had been correct. Su Mucheng obviously wasn't going to sit there and wait for her death to come. Dancing Rain fired a few shots at the light cover, borrowing the recoil to move. Aerial cannon. It was difficult to change directions while using aerial cannon, so it wasn't too suitable for this map. However, with this being Happy's home map, Su Mucheng was evidently very familiar with this area of the map. As Dancing Rain used aerial cannon, she accurately calculated the glide distance and direction every time, intentionally bumping into trees to change directions. After a few shots, Dancing Rain pulled away from Tyranny's formation. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots suddenly rang in the air. Qin Muyan's -9 degrees suddenly fired towards a direction. Enemy attack. No. The slower viewers weren't sure what was happening. On the other hand, the more attentive viewers quickly realized that Qin Muyan's -9 degrees was firing at one of the 6 potential hiding spots that Tyranny had conjectured. There's no one there. The viewers could see where Happy's members were located and knew the answer. Even so, by checking with his attacks, he helped Tyranny eliminate this possibility. As a result, apart from the already exposed Dancing Rain, there were only 4 guesses and 3 characters left. Tyranny was in no hurry though. Tyranny had already reached this far in. Was Happy still going to do nothing? If they made some adjustments, they might make Tyranny to predict wrongly. Thus, Tyranny didn't make any rash movements and focused on Dancing Rain. Dazzling Hundred Blossoms' offensive kept her under control. The bright lights kept interfering with Dancing Rain's sight, making it difficult for her to see Tyranny's pathing. Han Wenqing and Lin Qingyan quickly closed in under this light cover. Be careful of Yishu, Zhang Xinjie reminded everyone. Yishu moved. He saw that Sima Cheng's situation wasn't looking too good. Lord Grimm went over to provide support. Bang 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 bang. Another round of gunfire. It was Qin Muyun's job to stop Yishu from helping her out. He didn't need Zhang Xinjie's warning. He had taken note of Yishu. As soon as he saw Lord Grimm move, he didn't hesitate to attack. Lord Grimm fled behind a tree. Under such heavy gunfire, he couldn't easily expose himself. He could use his shield to tank the hits, but Lord Grimm didn't have that much health right now. His shield only reduced the damage too. It didn't negate it. Beautiful. Zhang Jiali praised in the chat as Dazzling Hundred Blossoms attacked even more fiercely. Zhang Xinjie wasn't moved by the current situation. He continued to be cautious, paying close attention to those calm areas. It was too calm. The battle had already developed to this stage, yet Happy still wasn't going to act. Were they really going to test Yishu and Sima Cheng and hope for the two to escape on their own? If Yishu and Sima Cheng failed to escape and died here, the match would be over. Could I have missed something? Zhang Xinjie never made mistakes. That was what people thought of Zhang Xinjie, but Zhang Xinjie himself never felt like he never made mistakes. He simply did his best to think of all aspects before making a decision. Others might not see any mistakes, but that was because he was constantly thinking of what could go wrong. He never let down his guard at any moment. He always thought of what could go wrong at any moment. The calmness from Happy gave him that sort of feeling. Zhang Xinjie wasn't someone who made decisions based purely off of intuition. This feeling was based on logic. If Happy didn't make any changes, they would certainly lose, so it didn't make sense that Happy would make no changes. Where? Zhang Xinjie made sure to keep up with the team's tempo, while continuing to observe his surroundings. Over there. Just when Zhang Xinjie turned to look over there, he immediately turned back and had a movable rock perform a role. There was no sound, no light, but did that mean nothing had happened? The moment a movable rock left that spot, the branches and leaves on the ground were suddenly swept up by the wind. Cloud-grasping fist. The Qi Master's cloud-grasping fist. Happy's Fang Rui, the master of playing dirty, had begun his own individual operation as soon as Tyranny entered their ambush area. He was very patient. Even when Tyranny had nearly cornered Sima Cheng, even when Yishu had been prevented from helping her, he hadn't made his move. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Because what he wanted wasn't just to give Tyranny a bit of an inconvenience. He wanted to completely disrupt the entire Tyranny with a single move. He had fixed his sights on Zhang Xinjie, on the important healer. He had been waiting for an opportunity to act. From the very beginning, he had planned on stealthily grabbing Zhang Xinjie's immovable rock with a cloud-grasping fist. That was why he ignored Sima Cheng's and Yishu's predicament. Only those sorts of predicaments could catch Tyranny's attention and lower their guard towards their healer. These types of ambushes were Fang Rui's specialty. His judgment was correct. When Qin Muyan began targeting Yishu to stop him from helping Sima Cheng, Tyranny's attention was almost entirely fixed on the fight over there. As a result, Fang Rui made his move. Following a movable rock boundless, he found a perfect position. Then, he casted, prayed for good luck, and acted. However, in the final moments, Fang Rui hadn't expected Zhang Xinjie to sense it. The cloud-grasping fist missed, exposing his position. Even though he was facing a cleric who posed no offensive threat, Fang Rui felt like he had been stripped naked. It was as if nothing could escape from Zhang Xinjie's notice. Fine, if an ambush isn't going to work, then I'll just go to you. Boundless Sea unexpectedly rushed forward. The cloud-grasping fist had missed, so his new plan was to kidnap Immovable Rock directly. Zhang Xinjie immediately had Immovable Rock retreat. Tyranny's other players obviously received the signal. In an instant, the 100 Blossom style enveloped Immovable Rock. Then, the light in Immovable Rock vanished. What? Is this a magic trick? Are you sure you aren't a magician? Feng Rui spat out. He immediately changed his plans. He couldn't catch Immovable Rock, so he began attacking Qin Muyun's -9 degrees. The guy had firepower, though. Feng Rui couldn't fight him out in the open, so he relied on his familiarity with the terrain to begin playing dirty. Chi bullet. Boundless Sea suddenly reached out with his hands and fired a chi bullet from behind a tree. Qin Muyun didn't dodge and let the chi bullet hit -9 degrees. He was ready to guard against a follow-up from behind that tree, when a storm of chi came from the other direction. Sky-piercing cannon. The wave of chi sent branches and leaves flying. It was obvious where it was coming from. The attack seemed to be saying to him, "You little punk, let's see you tank this one." End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1507. Neither side willing to take a step. Audio source, wuxia-worldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1507. Neither side willing to take a step. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. Sky-piercing cannon. You could ignore the damage dealt by the skill, but you could not ignore its knockback. If you tanked the skill without super armor, you would certainly be sent flying. Qin Muyun had -9 degrees dodge and counterattack simultaneously. But when he glanced behind him, his heart tightened. He had dodged sky-piercing cannon, but the surging chi was now heading towards one of his allies. Dazzling 100 Blossoms. Zhang Jolly's dazzling 100 Blossoms. Sure enough, Feng Rui's harassment was shameless and dirty. If the attack onto -9 degrees missed, there was a fallback. It was very clear why he picked those two targets too. If he hit -9 degrees, he would reduce the pressure on Yishu. Hitting dazzling 100 Blossoms would be even better. The 100 Blossom style was a hindrance towards both Yishu and Sima Cheng. Qin Muyun didn't know whether Zhang Jiali noticed it or not and quickly warned him. He didn't have time to type any words. Zhang Jiali hadn't noticed it, but Qin Muyun's warning was prompt enough. Not just Zhang Jiale, but Han Wenqing and Lin Jingyan dodged as soon as they saw the warning. Dazzling 100 Blossoms flopped like a fish and rolled, dodging the sky-piercing cannon. Qin Muyun let out a sigh of relief. However, Feng Rui's Boundless Sea had disappeared. He didn't know where he would come out from next time. Qin Muyun started feeling nervous. This was his responsibility, but Feng Rui's dirtiness was difficult for him to deal with. It took a long time for talents to grow. Compared to other rookies, he was more mature and rational. From the day he became part of Tyranny's main roster, he knew that he would not be the lead role on stage. At that time, Team Tyranny had shined the brightest in all of Glory. Legendary names that would go down in Glory history had gathered together in this team. Qin Muyun became the fifth player alongside them. Other rookies might feel pressured under these circumstances, but Qin Muyun did not. He figured out his own role in the team. In this group filled with stars, he didn't need to shine any brighter. Perhaps being put out of the spotlight would allow him to bring out more of his potential. As a result, Qin Muyun began his career as an invisible existence. For the rookies of this day and age, perhaps none of them would be happy about such a situation. They wanted to hurry and show everyone their talent, so that everyone would recognize their worth. Qin Muyun was different. Just like this, he finished an entire season in the dark. His numbers weren't spectacular, and he never made any highlight plays in the regular season. However, he was still a part of the main roster. No matter how invisible he may seem, Qin Muyun was confident in his own contributions to the team. His own value would not be neglected. Team Tyranny had Zhang Xinjie, who would never overlook anything. With this vice-captain, Qin Muyan could safely compete with his own style. He didn't need to worry about whether the team would forget about him. Qin Muyan succeed, even if he hadn't received any attention for a long time, as part of the main roster for a season. Just that fact alone was enough for people to no longer ignore him. Qin Muyan continued to hide under the radiance of the gods around him, but his existence was no longer ignored. As a result, his playstyle was no longer as suitable this season because their opponents were taking note of him. A player with a steady position in Tyranny's main roster could not be neglected. The space that he had due to being ignored was gone. Qin Muyan had no choice but to adapt to the new circumstances. He could no longer hide. He needed to use his own abilities to make the gods shine even brighter. His role was to patch up the gaps in the Holy Trinity. But facing Feng Rui, Qin Muyan was worried whether he would be able to complete this task. This master of playing dirty was too crafty. Although Lin Jingyan, who's used to be old partners with Feng Rui, had told him much of Feng Rui's methods and habits, HIH's class change made it difficult to rely on just these to keep up with Feng Rui. Tyranny's heroes were incompatible with his dirtiness. They couldn't keep up with Feng Rui's thoughts. Where is he? -9 degrees kept looking. He had outstanding positioning and was good at finding potential trouble spots, but after his misplaced judgment of Feng Rui's previous move, his confidence was starting to falter. Don't panic. Zhang Xinji's message popped out in the chat. He could tell that Qin Muyan was nervous. Tyranny mainly consisted of experienced veterans. However, their one inexperienced player's spirit had been disrupted by Feng Rui's sneak attack. "I'm coming." Quote. Another person typed. Lin Jingyan's Dark Thunder ran towards that area. The Holy Trinity formation had been temporarily disbanded. Han Wenqing and Zhang Jiali were enough to pressure Sima Cheng. When he saw that Qin Muyan was having trouble dealing with Yi Shu and Feng Rui, he chose to stop what he was doing and help him. Feng Rui was undoubtedly a target that he was familiar with. Dark Thunder turned towards a certain direction. Sure enough, Boundless Sea was in that direction. Feng Rui was helpless. His old partner knew him too well. Boundless Sea suppressed the rising chi that he had gathered and examined the situation again. Feng Rui was observing the situation. It was the same for Zhang Xinjie. 3 of Happy's players were visible. Sima Cheng had been isolated. Yi Shu was trying to re-establish contact with her, while Feng Rui was trying to disrupt Tyranny's tempo. There was no tactical coordination between any of them. Sima Cheng, Yi Shu, and Feng Rui were doing their own thing. This clearly wasn't the purpose for setting up an ambush. Had the ambush already been resolved? In that case, what about Luoji? And when Zhang Xinjie didn't neglect the potential hiding spots that they had ascertained, but there were no movements from there. The battle on this end had fully developed. There was no extra manpower to check those spots. Should we continue with our offensive? Zhang Xinji's immovable rock had shifted towards this end. No large changes had occurred yet. However, Yishu's and Sima Cheng's abilities weren't just this. With Lin Jingyan shifting his attention to Feng Rui, the pressure onto them should have been greatly reduced. The deadlock should have been broken. It was true that Lin Jingyan was an effective answer for Feng Rui, but at the same time, Zhang Xinjie took another look at Happy. Happy still had 2 players who had not yet showed their faces, so the hidden dangers had not been completely eliminated. Feng Rui's harassment gave Happy some space. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. He wanted to use this time to observe Happy's movements and hopefully reveal all of Happy's cards. With support from Dazzling 100 Blossoms, Han Wenqing's Desert Dust was getting closer and closer to Dancing Rain. Even though he hadn't launched any attacks yet, his push forward was far more threatening to Sima Cheng than Zhang Jiali's attacks. If Han Wenqing's Desert Dust was able to get close to her, the only outcome for her launcher was death. Retreat, keep retreating. Su Mucheng didn't seem to have found a way to escape. She could only keep on retreating and maintain a distance between them. As she retreated, Han Wenqing and Zhang Jiali advanced. Zhang Xinji's immovable rock also had to follow his team. The entirety of Tyranny was being pulled deeper into the residential area. The players could already see numerous tree houses on top of the trees. They weren't just following Dancing Rain blindly. The team maintained their formation. As Dancing Rain retreated deeper into the area, they had tried to surround Yishu's Lord Grimm. But in the end, Yishu was able to see through their intentions. Tyranny's formation was still intact though. Yishu's Lord Grimm failed to reach Dancing Rain, but his presence made it such that Tyranny could not let out any openings. Lin Jingyan and Feng Rui were following along with the paces of their respective teams, keeping their opponent in check and moving. The atmosphere in the stadium was very strange. The two sides could take a step and change the situation, but neither of them did so. In the end, Tyranny didn't open up their offensive, while Happy didn't do everything they could to save Su Mucheng. Both sides seemed to be using 70% of their strength. The remaining 30% made the viewers feel extremely anxious. The match is still in the observation stage. Yu Wenzhou messaged Huang Shaoshan. Previously, he had felt that Yishu wanted to get a feel for Tyranny for the sake of the set win. But now, from the looks of it, Tyranny's Zhang Xinjie also wanted to get a solid grasp on Happy before making his move. What is Happy planning? Yu Wenzhou was also puzzled. Unfortunately, even having an omniscient view of the battle didn't help. The commentators could not see the problem either. Who would be the first to break the balance? This was the crucial question. Both sides wanted to react to their opponent's actions. It depended on who would be more patient. However, from the current situation, even if Happy wanted to be patient, the situation might not let them. This was the terrifying part about Zhang Xinjie. His tactics were never dirty. He used oppressive strength to pressure the opponent to force the opponents into doing what he wanted. This tactical style had grown relying on Tyranny's powerful offensive capabilities. Is Happy not able to think of a solution? Pan Lin cried out. For the people who weren't able to see deep enough, Happy was at a disadvantage. Tyranny was forcing them back step by step. If Happy could not find a way to break through the situation, they would be forced into action. Come, show me your cards. Happy's plan couldn't just be an ambush, right? Why bring a summoner in this map? Zhang Xinjie was looking forward to what awaited him in Chapter
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1508. Instant after instant. Audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1508, Instant after instant. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. It was Luoji's first time on the playoff stage. He was a rookie that couldn't be more of a rookie. If he knew that Zhang Xinji was worried about him, his self-confidence would skyrocket. But no matter how much Zhang Xinji was looking forward to what was to come from him, Luoji wasn't going to give him face. His summoner, Concealed Light, had yet to appear on the battlefield. The viewers didn't know that Zhang Xinji was thinking about Luoji. If not, the broadcast would have certainly given Concealed Light a few close-ups to see what he was so busy with that he couldn't give this vice-captain any face. Luoji's Concealed Light didn't make any movements, but Yishu's Lord Grimm did. Boom. A grenade exploded. Lord Grimm tore through the explosion and rushed towards Dancing Rain. In the end, Su Mucheng isn't able to hold on and needs to be rescued. Zhang Xinji's attention quickly shifted towards that direction. As a cleric, his job wasn't just to keep up his team's health. Clerics had many useful offensive support skills such as Sacred Fire, Hypnosis, Holy Commandment. This was the difference between clerics and paladins. Clerics served a more offensive role, while paladins served a more defensive role. When Yishu's Lord Grim rushed forward, the first person to intercept him on Tiany's side was Zhang Xinji's immovable rock. A movable rock lifted his silver weapon, backlight cross, to his forehead and began casting a spell. Sacred Fire. Sacred Fire was a widely used cleric skill. No one cared about the damage dealt by the skill. What mattered was the 3 seconds of silence. 3 seconds. Yishu would likely reach Suma Chung within these 3 seconds, but if he couldn't use any skills, how was he supposed to rescue her? Happy's fans began to feel worried for Yishu, seeing what a movable rock was about to do. A movable rock's cast speed was extremely fast. The sacred fire was practically cast in an instant. White light radiated from the backlight cross. Then, the light seemed to leap across the void and disappeared. On the other side of the forest, a sacred fire suddenly burst forth in front of Lord Grim. It missed. Right when Lord Grim was about to take a step, he suddenly stopped, the sacred fire floating in front of him. Then, he gently circled around it and even took a glance at a movable rock. Was I discovered? Zhang Xinji felt that it was a pity, but he wasn't frustrated by it. Ambushes weren't his specialty. What's more, he was trying to ambush someone as experienced as Yishu. Zhang Xinji never placed all of his hopes on a single skill. The sacred fire missed. It was too bad, but it at least disrupted Lord Grim's tempo. Dazzling 100 Blossoms seized this opportunity to attack Lord Grim. As for Han Wenking's Desert Dust, he stepped to the side, stopping Suma Chung's attempt to move her dancing rain towards Lord Grim. A launcher charging past a striker was not a good idea. The blossoming light swallowed Lord Grim. Suddenly, the forest seemed to quiet down. What was missing? -9 degrees gunshots. Qin Mayun's -9 degrees had been chasing after Lord Grim, but the blossoming light blocked his view. For a moment, he couldn't lock onto his target. Not good. The sudden pause made Zhang Xinji realize that the situation wasn't good. It had interrupted Tyranny's tempo. Yishu had most likely intentionally let his Lord Grim get swallowed by the blossoming light. He had unexpectedly used his opponent's offensive as a cover. It was unadorned disdain towards Zhang Jiale. Zhang Xinji realized it, as did Zhang Jiale. The blossoming light that he had sent over wasn't a net, but a wall. If Yishu continued to charge towards Dancing Rain, he would certainly suffer heavy damage. With Han Wenking's Desert Dust there, as well as a pincer from Zhang Jiale and Qin Mayun, they could eliminate him in one go. That was the best outcome, but Zhang Jiale didn't think Yishu was so stupid. But it turned out that Lord Grim really did walk right into it. In that instant, Zhang Jiale had been excited, but he soon realized that though Yishu's intrusion had been shallow, Lord Grim had walked into his 100 Blossom style, but he didn't continue moving through the wall. He's using me as cover. Zhang Jiale and Zhang Xinji reacted almost simultaneously. Zhang Jiale had dazzling 100 Blossoms hastily retract the light cover. Not good. Not good at all. Zhang Jiale had realized the problem, but his realization had been somewhat shallow. When he retracted the light cover, Zhang Xinji immediately noticed an even deeper problem. By borrowing the light as a cover, Yishu had interrupted Qin Mayun's offensive and Tyranny's tempo. Then, when Zhang Jiale noticed the problem, he adjusted his 100 Blossoms style. Didn't that mean he had interrupted Tyranny's tempo twice? The interruptions had come one after the other. Although it was just for an instant, Qin Mayun and Zhang Jiale had stopped their attacks. Yishu had been looking for this instant. Boom boom boom. The sounds of cannon fire. Sure enough, Suma Chung's Dancing Rain immediately seized this opening. She paved the way forward with her cannon fire. At the same time, Yi Xiu's Lord Grim charged fiercely at Han Wenking's Desert Dust. Having won the title of Best Partners for 3 consecutive years, the coordination between the two didn't need to be explained. There was only one final obstacle in their path: Han Wenking. Team Tyranny's captain, Han Wenking, reinforced Iron Bones. No one knew if Han Wenking had a complete grasp of the situation like Zhang Xinji did. But when he saw Sumo Chung and Yi Xiu form a pincer onto him, he immediately had Desert Dust activate reinforced Iron Bones. Then, he completely ignored Lord Grim. Ferocious Tiger Flurry. Desert Dust attacked Dancing Rain, ignoring Lord Grim's attacks from behind. With reinforced Iron Bones activated, these attacks would not hinder his movements. Right now, he only had one target in his sights: Dancing Rain, who was heading straight towards him. Boom boom boom. Dancing Rain's artillery shells exploded onto Desert Dust, but it didn't even faze him. At this moment, everyone experienced the ferocity of a tiger that had rampaged through the battlefield for 10 years. The wind from his fists whistled by. Sumo Chung clearly hadn't expected Han Wenking to do this. It was too late for Dancing Rain to retreat. She could only do her best and face the ferocious Tiger Flurry head-on. Dodge. Not possible. She could only try to minimize the damage that she took. A white light radiated from Desert Dust, who could ignore most attacks with reinforced Iron Bones. The reason that he could bravely charge forward even if he didn't have a grasp of the situation was because he trusted the person behind him. With him, not a drop of water would leak out. Anything he overlooked would be patched up. Opportunity was only for an instant. Yi Xiu had cleverly interrupted Qin Mayun's and Zhang Jialei's offensive, but in the end, he had been stopped by Han Wenking. Opportunity was fleeting. -9 degrees and Dazzling 100 Blossoms started their offensive again. The two characters had rushed over to surround them. Not only had Yi Xiu failed to rescue Sumo Chung, it looked like he was going to be trapped here too. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Good, it was just a false alarm. Even Zhang Xinji couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. But then, in that instant, a white light suddenly flashed from the depths of the forest. White light. A white light that Zhang Xinji couldn't be more familiar with. Qi. It was a gentle noise, but in that instant, Desert Dust became enshrouded in white flames. Reinforced Iron Bones, so what? Ferocious Tiger Flurry, so what? Sacred Fire. The Cleric's Sacred Fire. The skill that Han Wenking's most reliable partner was proficient at was now burning Han Wenking's Desert Dust. Ferocious Tiger Flurry was interrupted, and the reinforced Iron Bones was dispelled. Lord Grim stepped forward, falling flower palm. Boom. Desert Dust was sent flying. Lord Grim and Dancing Rain had finally convened. -9 degrees and Dazzling 100 Blossoms were still firing at them, but the problem with long-range classes were that their control over the battle wasn't enough. Trying to keep Yi Xiu and Sumo Chung there with just the two of them was too difficult, let alone when one of them had a giant shield. Happy's and Wenyi, a rookie cleric and a fan of Zhang Xinji, used what Zhang Xinji was most proficient at to help rescue Happy from a Chris. A pity. Zhang Xinji could only say that it was a pity. He rarely made mistakes because he faced his mistakes. He wouldn't get frustrated by his mistakes. It only made him work harder. Fights were always back and forth. Zhang Xinji knew that it was not possible to have a 100% grasp in any situation. Yi Xiu successfully convened with Sumo Chung, but the match was far from over. Who knew how many more back and forths there would be? The two had convened, but they hadn't escaped, no. The gunfire from the two gunners continued to weave in and out. Desert Dust, who had been sent flying by a falling flower palm, was on his way back. Lin Jingyan's Dark Thunder was actively drawing closer to the team, while being on the lookout for Fang Rui. Ye Xiu and Su Mucheng had broken through the small net, but a bigger net was coming their way. And when Yi's little cold hand's position was now known, another sneaky move like that Sacred Fire wouldn't be so easy. End chapter.